We're now on Daf Tesamid Beis, and if you remember, the Talmidim of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai are in the middle of a pilpul, a dialectic with questions and answers, and the son of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, who was sent by his father to get a brach from them, is waiting in the wings. Hadar Yasvei becoming Boile. Now they have a different. They present a different contradiction of Psukim. Ksiv. It says in Mishlei, with regard to Torah, Yekara hi mipninim b'chol chafatzecha lo yishvu ba. Torah is more precious than pearls, and all your desires cannot compare to it, meaning that no mitzvahs can compare to Torah. Ha'cheftzei shamayim yishvu ba. It says b'chol chafatzecha. Chafatzecha means your chafatz, not chaftzei shamayim, not mitzvahs. So the implication is that cheftzei shamayim yishvu ba, and they're equal. And they do compare to Torah. Uksiv, but on the other hand, it says, Kol chafatzecha, kol chafatzim lo yishvu ba, that no mitzvah can compare and size up to Torah. So what is it? What comes first? If you have a conflict between Torah study and a mitzvah, obviously you put aside your personal desires for the sake of Torah study, but will you put aside mitzvahs for the sake of Torah study? And the pasuk seems to imply here that even mitzvahs are not as important as Torah, because it says kol chafatzim lo yishvu ba. De'afilu cheftzei shemaim lo yishvu ba. So the Gemara reconciles this by saying kan b'mitzvah she'ef shel asos de'acherim, kan b'mitzvah she'ef shel asos al yidei acherim. If somebody else could do the mitzvah, then the mitzvah is not comparable to Torah study. Torah study is superior, it supersedes, and therefore you should involve yourself in Torah study, let somebody else perform the mitzvah. But when it's a mitzvah that only you can perform, then you have to stop learning Torah and pick up and implement that mitzvah. Because Gadol HaTalmud Mevi Lidei Mais. Amruleh. Now, all of a sudden, the two scholars here, that's Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yehuda, they realize that the son of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is waiting for them. My boy's Hacha, what brings you here? Amalahu, and the son of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai responds to these two greats, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yonasan. The Amalei Abba, my father, meaning Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, told me, Zil Gabayu Dilavarchuch, go get a bracha from them. And now we're going to study the bracha that was bestowed upon the son of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai by these two budding scholars, Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yehuda. And by way of introduction, this bracha is couched in very ambiguous terms. And it's almost codified. Yehei Rava, let it be his will, his with a capital H. The Tizra v'lo techtzad, that you'll plant, but you won't harvest, you won't reap. Doesn't sound like a great bracha. Ta'ayel v'lo tefuk. You'll take things in, but you won't bring them out. Tepuk, and things you'll bring out, v'lo ta'ayel, but you won't be able to take them in. Lichruv beischa, let your house be destroyed. V'lesuv ushpizach, and let your inn be inhabited. Total code. Levalvel pisorach, your table should be mixed up. Velotechsa shato charet, and you will not see the new year. Ki osel gabe avua, when the son of Rashbi comes back to his father, Omer le, he tells his father, Lo mi boy did bruche lo brachi. It's been bad enough they didn't give us a brach, but it was much worse than that. They caused me such pain. They cursed me. Amalei, Rav Shimon said, my let's study the nusach of brach. I don't know if the son of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai had written down the nusach, but he seems to have remembered it. And now Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is going to show that the deeper meaning of each and every one of those segments, bracha, is all bracha. It's all for the good. Hanach kulu birchasaninu. Everything that came out of their mouths is a bracha. Number one, Izra v'lo techza. You will sow the ground but not cut and reap the benefit of what you sowed. What does that mean? Olid banim, and what does it mean? You won't cut it down? V'lo yamusu, they won't die. She'll beget children and they won't die. What's ti'ayel v'lo tepuk? Take it in, but don't bring it out. Ti'ayel kalasa, bring in a daughter-in-law into your family. And v'lo tepuk, she wouldn't have to go back to her father's house. Why? V'lo yilimsu b'nach dilafku. Notice, usually, if a married woman never loses her husband, she goes back to her parents' house. But they won't go back. Your daughters-in-law will not go back to their father's house because your sons will remain alive. And then first we want to know, how's that different than the previous bracha of Tolid Banim V'lo Yomutz? But here we're introducing the daughters-in-law. Tepuk V'lo Da'ayel. Bring it out, but don't take it in. Tolid B'nasa. You'll have daughters and you'll marry them off. V'lo Yomutzu Guvrayu, and their husbands will not die. V'lehedju Levasich, so that they'll come back to you. They'll go back to the father. Ooh, in this case, Lechruv Beischa, what does it mean? Destroy your house. V'lesuv Ushpezich, and let your inn be inhabited. Hai Alma Ushpezich. This world is like an inn, place where you remain on a temporary basis. Hi Alma, but the world to come is Besa. That's a permanent house. And therefore, at the end of the day, when this world comes to an end, you'll come to live in the world to come, in the real bias. Ichsiv kirbam v'atemo liolam. David HaMelech says, until in their imagination, their houses are forever. Al tikri kirbam ella kivram. In other words, the blessing is that their graves should be destroyed, meaning they shouldn't die. Their graves will remain unused. Levalvel psorach, let your table be mishkababbled, because you have young children, and young children tend to mess around with what's on the table. They pick it up and they throw it in napkins and akum, everything is thrown in all directions. We don't appreciate that as a brach. What does that mean? You will not see the new year. Your wife Chas will not die, such that you'll have to marry another wife. And the new year that's mentioned in this blessing is a reference to the first year of marriage. Another story about a guy's bracha. Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta iftar minei derav. So Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta took leave of his Rebbe Rav. Amar le, Rav says to his son Lebrei, Zil legabe, go to Rabbi Shimon, delivarchuch, and get a bracha from him. It's worth it. Amar le, so this is what Rabbi Shimon said when he bestowed a bracha on the son of Rav. Yehei Rav, may it be his will, that you shouldn't be embarrassed and you shouldn't embarrass others. Hey, it's a bracha, but it's a little bit beinachol. So Rav asked, he interrogated them, what bracha did he bestow upon you? Amalei milin the alma who the amalei. He just said ordinary words. There was nothing impressive about this bracha. Don't come to embarrass others, so you yourself will not be embarrassed. Amalei. Oh no! You're missing the great bracha here that he bestowed upon you. Berchach berchasa de barchin kudshabrichu Yisrael. v'tana bei. He blessed you, this Reb Shimon bar Chalaf, with the blessing that God himself blessed Israel and repeated it. Tichsiv, it says in Yoel, V'achaltem achol v'savoa v'hilaltam. You will eat, eating and being satisfied, and you will praise the Almighty. V'lo yevoshu ami li'olam. And my people will not be shamed evermore. V'yedatem ki bekerev Yisrael oni. You will know that I am in the midst of Israel. V'lo yevoshu ami li'olam. My people will not be shamed evermore. So when he says the second phrase there of ki bekerev Yisrael oni, and he adds that lo yivoshu ami li'olam, my people will not be ashamed, we can interpret it to mean that one should not embarrass others and therefore will avoid being embarrassed. So this is a great blessing that came from the Ribono Shel Olam, and that's what he was, so to speak, emulating God and giving you the same blessing. The Mishnah says, getting back to Chol Moed, V'yosa isha tachshitera, she's allowed to do cosmetics and beautify herself on Chol Moed. Tan Rabbanan, elu hein tachshiti noshim. Here's a list of tachshitim, of different types of cosmetics. Ocheles, kind of blue paint that she puts on her eyes. Posekes, and she either braids her hair, or it says here she smooths her hair to one side. Another interpretation is she applies rouge to the face. Ika diamri. Oh, so now we have a mavira strak al panea. Okay, that's the rouge on her face. Ika diamri me ma'averes sakin al paneh shel mat. She cuts with a razor her genital area, the hairs that are growing wild in her genital area. That's all part of cosmetic. The bisu de Rav Chizda, the wife of Rav Chizda, mekashta bi'anpe kalosa. Okay, now the wife of Rav Chizda is no spring chicken, and yet she's adorning herself and putting on the cosmetics on Chol Moed in the presence of her daughter-in-law, who's a much younger woman. So the Gemara is trying to point out that even though she's an older woman, she has a married son, nevertheless, she was allowing herself to put on these cosmetics and beautify herself on Chol Moed. Yosef Rav Huna bar China kamed Rav Chizda. Rav Huna was sitting at the feet of his Rebbe Rav Chizda. The Yosef V'Komer, and he asked him the following question: Lo shanu el yalda. We can make leniencies on behalf of a young woman to allow her to adorn herself and use cosmetics on Chol Moed. Aval zkena, an elderly woman, lo. Now, why is your wife busy on Chol Moed putting on all these, cosmetics? We don't have a heter for an older woman. Younger people are more concerned about their appearance. It's a source of joy for them on Chol Moed to appear beautiful. Aval zkena lo, homolei. Rav Chizda responded, you got it wrong. You don't understand psychology too well. Elokim means Lashon Shruag, by God. Afilu imach. Even your mother would be allowed to reach the state of joy by using cosmetics. Afilu omedes, afilu ima deimach, and even your grandmother. Afilu omedes al kivra. Even a woman who's in the advanced stage of life, she's about to be buried in the grave, we allow her to apply makeup during Chol Moed. Diamriinshi, as people say, bashitim kibashis lekal tavla rata. A 60-year-old is like a 6-year-old that they run around at the sound of bells. And this is a reference to music played at a wedding. That just like a 6-year-old runs around to the music of a wedding, so does a 60-year-old. And regarding adorning themselves, a 6-year-old woman is like a 6-year-old young girl and gets joy from cosmetics. Rav Yehuda Omer lo tasud. They used to use lime as a depilatory to remove hair, and Rav Yehuda prohibits that on Yom Tov. However, Tanya, we learned to the Brisa, Rav Yehuda Omer, Isha lo tasud mipnei shenivel hula. While this lime is applied to her skin, it is a disfigurement to her, and she's in a state of tsar, and that's antithetical to Chol Moed. But Moed Rav Yehuda, v'sid sheyechola lekaplo b'moed. If he has sid that was placed on her body on Chol Moed, and she could peel it off during Chol Moed, then shetofalto b'moed. She's allowed to apply it during Chol Moed. Shafal pi shemitzera hiach. Even though right now it certainly distresses her, but simchi liachar mikan, when you remove later on this sid, it's going to be a big simcha for her, because when the lime is removed, sometime before the end of the Chag, it removes unwanted hair, causes her skin to be smooth, and therefore it's mutter during Chol Moed, because despite the discomfiture in the stage 1, she'll reach the simcha of stage 2. Umi islay Rabbi Yehuda isvara. Does Rabbi Yehuda indeed accept that reasoning that we can permit something that begins with distress, causes distress, but at the end of the day it'll cause joy? Is that mutar on Yontu, on Chol Moed? But Katan, we learned in a Mishnah at the beginning of Masechet Avodah Zarah, Rabbi Yehuda Omer nifroim mehem mipnei shemeitzar. Now, the background here is that, as a general rule, during the holiday period of the idolaters, we don't want to make them happy and enhance their simcha. What about the following case? An idolater, an akum, owes you a chov. Can you accept payment during that holiday period? And the answer is, Rabbi Yehuda says, Nifroi mehem mipnei shemeitzar, because the idol worshiper is not going to be happy about the fact that he's paying you back the chov. On the contrary, he's going to be distressed about it. Amru lo, the Chacham said to him, Afal pi shemeitzar achshav samechu li'achar zman. Even though right now he's pinching himself, why do I have to pay the Jew all this money and repay the loan? But ultimately, he'll feel good about it. His debt is removed from his shoulders, and therefore it's forbidden to accept payment from this akum during the time of Edom, of their holidays, their idol-worshipping holidays. In any event, we see that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't accept the shita that, if subsequently he'll be happy about it, it's considered like he's happy, and therefore it's prohibited. No, Rabbi Yehuda puts all the emphasis on his immediate emotional response, which is distress. He's digging into his pocket, counting out $5,000 to give it to the Jew. Forget about what he'll feel later. And if we apply that here to the case of cosmetics, or specifically to the case of sid, and putting this lime on our skin, then Rabbi Yehuda should be focused on the now. Right now, she's in a state of distress. And that's why it was matir nifroim mina akum, because the guy, by having to pinch himself and pay the debt back, now he's in a state of distress, even during his holiday, which that's good. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Hanoch lehilchas Moed, tekulu meitzar achshav v'samech lachar zmanin. He says that the laws of Chol Moed were structured in a way that Chazal permitted on Chol Moed anything that fits the following description, any category. Meitzar achshav, now it causes distress, but samech liachar zman. he'll down the line, it will cause him to be happy and rejoice. And therefore, even Rabbi Yehuda would allow you, in the case of these kinds of sin, to apply them to the body, even though it starts with distress, because it ultimately ends up with simcha. But that's a specific halach in Kol Moed, and it has no application outside of the realm of Chol Moed. For example, in terms of the simcha, or the opposite of simcha, of the Oved Kochav. Ravina Omar, he wants to offer a different answer to this question. Kusi le'inyan piron li'ola metzah. A Kusi who worships idols, with regard to paying back his chov, Rabbi Yehuda holds it's mutter because he's always going to be distressed about it. Even though with the passage of time, he realizes that, hey, I should be rejoicing. I'm no longer obligated to shell out money for the Jew. And Rabbi Yehuda's matir, because the immediate emotional feeling that accompanies paying back a loan is distress. So, according to Ravina, the logic of Rabbi Yehuda to be matir, receiving repayment of a loan from an akum, is because the akum will always feel distress. He'll never get to the point where he feels I'm relieved from the chov, from the obligation to pay the money. Amar Rav Yehuda benot Yisrael she'igiu lepirkon. When girls begin to get to the age where they have pubic hairs, v'lo igiu l'shana, but they're very young, so it's not appropriate. It's not such a good thing to exhibit prematurely signs of puberty. Then this is the way we can almost subdivide the fiscal financial status or strata of the Jewish nation, the rich ones and the poor ones and the middle of the road ones. Anios toflos otzam besid, the poor girls who don't have money to pay for more expensive kinds of cosmetics, they'll use this lime, this plaster, to remove their hair. Ashiros, the rich ones, toflos osan besoles, they'll use fine flour. And benots malachim, the most expensive, the highest strata, daughters of royalty, is b'shem and amor. Shenemar, as we saw by Esther, shisha chadoshim b'shem and amor. What is Shem and Amor? Rav Huna bar Chia Omar, stakas. Okay, they understood that in Aramaic. We don't. Rav Yirmiyah bar Ami Omar, Shemen Zayish Shelo Hevi Shlish. What is stakas? Stakas, it's oil from olives that never matured. They didn't even attain 1/3 of their maturation. Tanya, we learned in the Brayso of Yehuda Omer, on fikinon, shemen zayish lo hevi shlish. Fikinon is a kind of a healing drug, and it's made of oil from olives that didn't achieve 1/3 of their maturation. He quotes here in the footnote the Mishnah Menachos on Pehei that on pikinon cannot be used as oil for the mincha karbanos. Now the Gemara goes back to Rabbi Yehuda, who said that girls would remove their hair either with lime or fine flour or shemen amor, lama sachenosan, shemashir es haseir uma'adin es habosar. So on the one hand, it removes the hair, and it also, at the same time, has another additional benefit. It causes the skin to glow. And the Gemara now tells a story. Rav Bibi Havi Le Brata had a daughter, Tofla Aver Aver. She would take lime and she would dip each limb individually, one at a time, into the lime, and it caused the skin to radiate. As a result, she became so hot on the market because everyone wanted to marry her. Ishakal, he, the father, meaning Rav Bibi, was able to take ba from her arba mea zuzah. Wow, 400 zuzahs in dowry. That's what he's able to charge. She was so beautiful, and her beauty was enhanced by this treatment. She had many suitors who wished to marry her. Aviyahu Kusi b'Shivasa. There was a guy, an idol worshiper in that neighborhood. Havile Brati had a daughter. And he decided, you know what? I see that Rabbi Bibi was very successful. Apparently, it was public knowledge that he used this treatment in order to get the skin to radiate. Is Tafla Bechad Zimna. In one full shot, he dipped and smeared her entire body in lime. Umesa and Nebuch, she died. Omar, he said, Katla Bibi Librati. Bibi has caused the death of my daughter because I learned how to treat the skin from Bibi. Omar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman heard about the fact that Rav Bibi was able to enhance the appearance of his daughter. He made the following astute observation. Rav Bibi Deshasi Shikra. Why does Rav Bibi need this kind of smearing with lime in order to improve and enhance his daughter's appearance? That's because they drink beer in his house. Apparently, the drinking of beer causes excessive hair growth, thickening of the flesh, causes the skin to darken. Anan the lo shasin and shikra, but in our household, we don't drink beer. Lo bayan bunsen tifla. We don't have to follow and emulate the example of Rabbi Bibi and smear our daughters with lime to enhance their appearance. And this is the end of Daf Tesam and Beis. And Amir Hashem, in tomorrow's Shir, we'll pick it up on Daf Yud Amid Aleph.